I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. This is the Alcohol Mastery Podcast Session 3. I have a couple of questions this morning. And the first one is, what about alcohol in food? Really, I don't have a problem with this. Some people say that you should avoid alcohol in food at all costs, and it depends what you think about it. Really, this is going to be a personal choice. Me, I don't think it does me any harm. My whole philosophy about quitting drinking was to quit drinking, to stop drinking alcohol, to get alcohol from that perspective out of my life, from sitting at bars and doing all the damage to myself, all the health shit that was going on in my life, and spending all my time drinking and just basically polluting my body. And I don't think you do that with alcohol in your food. The chances of you getting high by the small amounts of alcohol that are in food are, going to be fairly slim. I mean, in reality, most of the alcohol burns off. So the small amounts of alcohol that you're going to get, that are going to remain once you eat the food, are going to be very slim. So, it's the same sort of thing as when you drink alcohol-free beer. I mean, there is no such thing, I don't think, as pure alcohol-free beer. There's always going to be small amounts of alcohol in it. So, you can never get away from that. I think the only way that I'd look at this is if you're actively looking for alcohol, if you're looking for foods with alcohol so that you can test it out whether you can drink, then, I think that's a bit stupid, I wouldn't do that. You have to start questioning your own resolve to stay off the alcohol then, in my opinion. At Christmas this year, my sister is the only person who does a trifle, and she puts sherry into the trifle, and it's a mean trifle. I love trifle, and there was no way I was going to avoid having trifle just because there was a little drop of sherry into it. The kids eat the trifle, so I didn't feel wrong about that at all. I had a beer, an alcohol-free beer there, a few weeks ago for the first time, and that sort of was weird for me because it wasn't an alcohol-free beer on its own. It was an alcohol-free pint of shandy. So it was just so hot, and my dad was having one, and I thought, I'll try one of those, and I really didn't like it. And I didn't like it not because of the taste. I thought the taste was just lousy, but it just brought back some memories to me, and I just didn't like it, and I felt sort of a little bit guilty about drinking it, not for any other reason that it tasted like beer. So I didn't drink it. I had a pint of water instead. If you can hear all that noise in the background there, that was just crickets. Jeez, there's loads of them around at this time of the year. So when it comes down to it, I don't avoid foods that have got alcohol in them. I don't buy foods that have got alcohol in them. If I know there's alcohol in the food, then I don't buy it. I don't buy foods that have been cooked with alcohol because I don't like them. I never liked them when I was drinking. I liked my drink out of a glass. That was my problem. I didn't have a problem with alcohol through eating alcohol in food. I had a problem with sitting at bars and drinking 20 and 30 pints of the stuff. Or sitting at home and going through 2 or 3 bottles of wine. That was my problem. So really, I think you just drive yourself mad, by thinking, is there alcohol in this food? where are you going to stop? You know, is there alcohol in this medication, in this cough syrup? Is there alcohol in this detergent that I'm using? You know, it's not really drinking. It's not drinking at all. It's not really drinking, it's just not drinking. You know, I think some people think that if they taste alcohol at all, that it'll drive them back to alcohol. I don't personally think that. I don't accept this theory of one drink rules them all. You know, if you have one drop of alcohol going into your system, then you're right back where you started. I don't believe that, because I don't want to drink one drink. One drink is never going to pass my lips, because I just don't want alcohol in my life anymore. That's it, period. And once you get over that, you know there's not going to be the possibility of that first drink. So, you know, don't be winding yourself up with thinking about alcohol that may only be in the tiniest amounts in the foods that you're eating. You know, alcohol is a natural part of your digestive process as well. So you're always going to have a certain amount of alcohol in your system. I mean, as the food goes into your body, it starts the decomposing process nearly straight away. So that turns some of the food into alcohol. It's just part of the whole process. If you eat really ripe fruits, there's going to be a little bit of alcohol in it. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to start avoiding those types of things? You know, I say don't deliberately order food that has got alcohol in it, just because you want to have the taste of alcohol. You know, or if you go somewhere and you know there's a cherry trifle and you're trying to eat the whole cherry trifle and so that you can get a buzz, then there's obviously something wrong with that, you know. You know, but use your common sense with these things. I think that's the key, you know. You know, I didn't stop drinking alcohol so that I could stop drinking alcohol. I stopped drinking alcohol because it was wasting my fucking life. Seriously, wasting my life. You know, and I won't never go back to it, because I've got the taste for that kind of thing, and I know where it was leading me, and I know that I only like drinking so that I could get drunk. Now, I don't know now if I could go back that way, if I could moderate my drinking and have a decent life. I've heard some people say that they can, but yeah, there's no fucking way I'm taking any risks with alcohol ever again. It's just it doesn't make sense to me anymore. I mean, I know what it is now. I know it's only a poison. I know in large amounts it's just a deadly poison, and it's causing a lot of problems. So the idea of taking any more alcohol into my body is just a complete fucking no-no. There's just no chance that that's happening to me. But it's not because of the alcohol, it's because of what I was doing with the alcohol. It's because I was sitting there and drinking pint after pint after pint after pint. And it's because I was doing this when I should have been doing other things, when I could have been doing other things in my life and I wasn't. So now I just want to do those other things. You know, I don't need any drugs anymore. I don't need anything like that. The next question is, if I can hold my drink, is it a concern? And first thing I want to say about this is, you know, what do you mean by hold your drink, for a start? What do you mean by concern? You know, who's actually concerned? Is it, you know, is the question being asked about somebody else? So is it a concerned parent talking about their kid? And holding your drink could mean you're only able to, you're able to go through maybe 2 or 3 pints without getting sick. At the beginning, that's all it would take for me was a couple of pints, and I'd be throwing up, and the room would be spinning, and all that kind of stuff. Now, yeah, when I stop, 20 pints, 30 pints. So is that holding your drink? Another thing is that just because you can hold your drink, just because you can drink a lot of quantity, doesn't mean that it's you're diminishing the harm. The alcohol is doing you the same harm as if you'd never had a drink before. It's not a protection against the damage, so you still have to exercise a lot of caution. 5 pints of alcohol is still going to do you the same amount of damage whether you can hold it or not. The more you drink, the more you damage. The only thing that happens inside your body is that your body becomes tolerant. You build up a tolerance to it, and that's your body's survival system kicking in, really, and making sure that you're not killing yourself with this stuff. I don't know whether this is going on inside your body, whether your body's starting to go, well, this guy's not going to give up the booze anytime soon, so we better do something here. I don't think so. I think it's it's just a purely natural reaction that your body goes through. The more alcohol comes in, the more your body has to minimize the damage that's being done. And I'm talking about minimizing it in terms of you functioning, because if you can't function first and foremost, you're not going to get anything else done. So I think the damage limitation, I don't think you can do anything about the levels of alcohol inside your body. It can only ever deal with 1 unit of alcohol per hour. So your liver can only deal with 1 unit of alcohol per hour. And that capacity is going to diminish over time. It's not going to get stronger. That's not a muscle that you can build. So over time, in terms of overall function, I think that your body is trying to allow you to have the mental capacities to get on with your life, to whatever you're supposed to be doing, evolutionary speaking, procreation and keeping yourself alive, going out and feeding yourself, and all those things. I think that's what the main trick of building up a tolerance is so that you're not susceptible to it. But the damage is still going to be done, and obviously the more you drink, the less minimizing that your body can do. Eventually it's going to screw up with your brain regardless of what you do, because if once the alcohol gets into your system, once it gets into your brain, it starts to physically deteriorate your organs, and including your brain, including your heart, including everything. So your defense systems can only work on basically what they've got to work on. Once the damage goes beyond a certain level, then tolerance or not tolerance, there's very little that your body can do. Also remember that these systems weren't designed for commercial alcohol consumption, for drinking alcohol like this. These systems were designed to deal with the small amounts of alcohol that are in your system already, that I was talking about earlier on, that happen just with your own digestive processes, or the small amounts of alcohol that you drink or that you'll eat with rotten fruit. And I'm sure the cavemen, got a buzz out of eating rotten fruit, but that's a natural thing. It's a natural sugar. For a start, the fruit is only seasonal, so you can only get it. You only get fruit at certain times of the year. Even if you're in tropical countries, there's only certain times of the year that the fruit grows. Here in Spain, there's oranges on the tree from sort of September, maybe October, even later than that. I can't remember. But, there's only, they disappear by the time January comes around. They're gone. And those fruits will ripen, and there's only a certain stage, and it's only a few days when that ripened fruit will yield small amounts of alcohol. And I would imagine that you have to eat an awful lot to get pissed. So there's really no chance that you're going to ever get an addiction from eating rotten fruit. You know, it's just, what's the likelihood? Very little. You know, but with commercial brews, commercial brewing, commercial alcohol, drinking alcohol, it's a completely different story. Your body just hasn't got the defenses for that at all. You know, the more you drink, the more damage you're going to cause to yourself. Pure and simple. No way around that. So in the first 2 episodes of the podcast, the first 2 sessions, the first one I talked about death. Second one I talked about fear. And this one I wanted to talk about pain. So we tend to avoid things that cause us pain. We tend to avoid things that we think might cause us pain. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people don't actually step over the line. You know, that starting line is because they fear that what's waiting for them once they don't have alcohol in the system anymore, once they don't have alcohol to use as a crutch anymore, that what's waiting for them is a lot of fucking pain. So they just don't go there. I mean, don't forget that a lot of the reason that we do this in the first place, a lot of the reason why we drink, is to mask a lot of the pain that we're going through. You know, pain has got different definitions. For, you know, if you're a young person, you're just starting out in life, you're a young teenager, and you're going through all the changes and you're unsure about yourself. That was the time when I started drinking for the first time, and I think it's the same with a lot of young people. They just start because it's an easy way out of that pain that they're going through, of, you know, feeling awkward and not being able to socialize properly and not knowing what to say, being unsure about the way they look, you know, and just being generally, there's so much change going on, and, you know, none of us likes change. You know, so when I'm talking about pain in terms of alcohol, you know, I think it's more emotional pain than physical pain. I don't think we really turn to alcohol for physical pain, although I think I've done it a few times, maybe bad toothache, or I can't remember ever going and downing a few pints to try and get rid of a headache anyway. Hangover, definitely. You know, I've had really bad hangovers, and just, I mean, it's a form of pain, it's a form of suffering. And okay, this section has been done inside because I was the recording that I did earlier on, just this section had a lot of pops and squeaks and empty sections in it, and it just didn't record right. So if I'd have put that up as a podcast, I think everybody would be switching off at this stage. What I was saying was pain is part of your overall alarm system. It's a way of telling you either to stop doing something, to ease back on doing something, or telling you that there's something wrong. So if you're getting internal pains, a lot of the time it's to say, well, you've eaten something wrong, or there's something wrong inside with one of your organs. If you're getting external pain, you know, muscle pain, that kind of thing. I don't know if anyone's familiar with weightlifting or anything like that. I did a bit when I was younger, you know, not weightlifting, but just gym exercise in general. And I think everyone's familiar with having sore muscles the day after. And that's basically to tell you to stop doing what you're doing, or to ease back on what you're doing. I tried to take up running again when I stopped drinking, and I was just kept getting pains in my knees and pains in my Achilles tendon. And no matter how much I rested and came back to it, and then I stretched and did all that work, I just kept getting the same pain. So eventually I just took it as my body saying to me, look, stop doing that now, you know, don't do that anymore. We don't like it. You know, when I say I went back to running, I never really was a runner, so There was nothing really to go back to. I tried it several times in my life, and I never really liked it. So I always liked walking. My body's used to walking. I never get injured walking. And so that's basically what I'm doing now. I still want to run, but it's a part of me that's sort of conditioned. I see other people running and I think, oh, I wouldn't mind doing that, but yeah. What I wanted to talk about was this guy called Paul Brand, he wrote a book called Pain, The Gift Nobody Wants. And this book was written, I think it was published in the 1990s. I think he's gone now. I don't think he's still with us. But all of his work was based around looking into pain, examining patients who were in pain, and just looking at pain from that angle, from that different angle, that pain is there to be your friend, that it's not there as something that is to be avoided, but it's something to be listened to. Like the same thing as if an alarm bell goes off, it's something there to be listened to. He's talking about leprosy, and leprosy patients, they don't feel any pain. So they feel all their nerve endings are dead. And he was talking about one of his earliest patients before he became a leprosy doctor. And this child didn't actually have leprosy, but the mother took the child in, who was only, I think, 18 months old, 2 years old. And she had injuries on her hands. And the mother had said basically that she put the child into her crib and into a cot, and she went out and she was doing something in the other room. She heard the child laughing his head off, so she went in to investigate and see what she was laughing about. And she saw all this red lines all over the sheets, and she said her first thought was, where did the kid get the red pen from? And when she went over, she found that she'd actually bitten off the top of her finger. Because she didn't feel any pain, she didn't realise that she'd injured herself, and she was delighted that she was drawing these red marks along her sheets. And Dr. Brand, she was one of his patients for, I think, over a decade. And the last time he saw her, he said that her arms had virtually disappeared up to her elbows, and the same with her knees. But because she couldn't feel the pain, and because she was a child, she was continuously injuring herself and continuously wearing down the tissue and bones until there was hardly anything left. So, he talks about different patients, about one guy who had to have his, or nearly had to have his foot amputated because he got a pebble in his foot, in his shoe, and he didn't realise he had the pebble, and the pebble started eating through his wearing through his skin, and eventually got into the underlying tissue and just started causing all sorts of problems. And obviously he might have found the stone later on, but because he didn't treat the wound, he didn't feel it, getting infected or anything like that. He wouldn't have felt any swelling, and the infection got that bad that he eventually had to. He came into Dr. Brand for treatment, and Brand invented all these different shoes so that leprosy patients could look after themselves, and he just came up with different ideas for looking after these people. But the book was about not only physical pain but mental pain, and he was saying that a lot of mental suffering is there because it's trying to tell you something, and it sort of made me think a lot about cravings and side effects and all that kind of symptoms after you've quit, and a lot of it is generally in your head. So I'm going to go back to the recording now, and we'll see you in a bit. One of the best ways that I can teach you how to think about the pain afterwards is just to look at the pain that you're feeling now. Look at all the pain that alcohol has caused in your life. The pain, physical pain that you're experiencing from all the physical symptoms, liver pain, kidney pain, whatever. Look at all the hangovers that you're feeling right now. You know, before I stopped, 2 or 3 day hangovers were the norm. You know, and it was just fucking awful. I didn't want to feel that. You know, and that was never ever going to get better. You know, my biggest fears, and the thing that caused me a lot of emotional pain was thinking about the hangovers in 10 years' time. What would happen in 10 years' time? You know, these things they progressively get worse. The more alcohol I would have to consume because of tolerance, the more alcohol I would have to drink. And the more alcohol I had to drink, the more, the worse that the hangovers were going to get. The older I got and the more deteriorated my body became, the less capable my body was of dealing with the hangovers. You know, so when I was young, I can't remember getting many hangovers. I think I did if I got really, really drunk. But then they gradually got worse and worse the older I got. And I would imagine that in 10 years' time, it would be one continuously long hangover. And I can see why people actually want to get up in the morning and drink just so that they can feel some way normal. And I've heard, you know, like proper full-on alcoholics talking about their addictions in that way, and it's when they don't actually have the hangover anymore. That is their normal state of mind, and that in order to feel anyway decent, they have to drink. So it just becomes a self-perpetuating cycle, because the more they drink, the worse the hangover gets, the less able they are to deal with things. And you know, so you know, also think about the emotional pain that you're just causing around you. You know, that you're feeling from just watching your life pissing down the toilet. You know, watching your life ebb away because of the amount of time that you're spending doing this, and because of the physical damage that alcohol is causing to your body. You're unable to put large amounts of physical energy into the good things in life, the things that will bring you pleasure and joy. You know, think about the emotional damage that is being caused to other people around you because of your drinking. You know, it's the people that really care about you, the people that love you. And so if you can think about those things, think about the pain that you're going through now at the moment, and then sort of make the comparisons to what's going to happen afterwards. I mean, you are stopping the source of the pain. The source of the pain is the alcohol. Once you get the alcohol out of your life, that pain is going to lift. You also really make the comparisons between the pain that you're going through now and what you're likely to go through afterwards, and you'll find that there's no comparison. You know, you go through much more pain, and you're facing into much more pain by continuing to drink than you are by stopping drinking. By stopping drinking, all you're doing is you're saying, well, I'm going to go through some discomfort. I'm going to be uncomfortable for a while because I can't have my alcohol anymore, and because I've got to change the way I'm living my life. And that's what it's all about afterwards, is changing the way you live your life. It's making adjustments. Once you stop drinking, that's it. You can't quit drinking more than once, you know, unless you start drinking again. But once you stop drinking and you don't drink anymore, that's it. You've stopped drinking. Period. It's finished. Then comes the hard part, and that's being uncomfortable while you're dealing with life, while you're learning the strategies to deal with life that you didn't learn before. And that's not that difficult to learn. Those things are not difficult to learn. You know, there's plenty of knowledge about that. You know, I've talked about this a lot on the website and in the videos, that I was afraid at the beginning. I was afraid of what was going to happen, but I knew from 5 years previously that I wasn't going to go through a lot of bad symptoms. So I wasn't really worried about that, but I just didn't know how far forward I'd come, how worse my body was going to be able to cope with it. It was 5 years down the line after all. I drank 5 years more beer. My body had, my organs had deteriorated by 5 years more alcohol. So I was sort of worried about that, but I had the determination that I just wasn't going to give in. So no matter what, I wasn't going to give in. No matter what happened, if I couldn't sleep, I'd lie awake, and that was it. I'd get up and I'd still try and cope as hard as I could the next day, and I'd get on with my life. And if I couldn't sleep for a month, then so be it. If I couldn't sleep for 6 months, so be it, I would deal with that when it came, but there was just going to be no chance that alcohol was going to pass these lips again. And I think looking at things in that way, that determination way, is regardless of what happens, this is going to happen. I know this one thing is going to happen. This is the certainty. There is no more drink. That is certain. So most people go into the future not knowing anything about what's going to happen. They have a fair idea, but I knew that there was going to be no more alcohol. So that one fact, I think, lessened the pain. It was because I accepted that one thing, then I had to accept that there was going to be discomfort, and I had to make the best of the discomfort. So I wasn't talking up the discomfort and going, oh, well, I can't stand this, I can't do this anymore. As soon as I felt that, it was like, yeah, whatever. There's going to be no more alcohol, so whatever else happens, that's a fact. I think once you think like that, it just minimizes the overall pain that you're going to feel. I've also spoke about that I didn't go down to the doctor. I didn't bother going down to the doctor because I knew what was going to happen. I knew what the doctor was going to tell me. He was going to say, well, there's obviously one course of action, and that's to stop drinking. Or maybe he would have told me that moderation, had I tried moderation. Or, maybe he would have said, take a few pills. Here's some pills that you can take. And also I didn't want to pay somebody €50 to tell me that kind of stuff. So, but I would advise anybody who is fearful, or, they're fearing any sorts of pain or that kind of thing, to go to the doctor. I think the doctor can be a source of comfort in that perspective. So it's all about trying to minimize the amount of pain that you're feeling before you cross the start line. Before the day comes when you're going to go for your quit, that you are as full of confidence as you can. And if that takes going down to your doctor and talking to your doctor, and even going down and finding a therapist that you can talk to, somebody that you can go through your concerns with and your fears, and just putting all those to bed before you even start. I think if you can do that, you can start out your quit on a much better level from the perspective of your head. And I think it's all in the head. I think the alcohol, whatever it's going to take out of you, out of your system, how long it takes for the alcohol to disappear, and 98% of quitting alcohol is all in your head. So there's a bit to do with the alcohol in your body. It's a chemical. The longer you've been drinking it, the more your body is going to be used to it. And I know it does some shit inside your brain, and I know that it interferes with a lot of the chemical balances in your brain, and it takes a while for that to heal itself. It takes a while before your body can rebalance the natural chemicals. So I think that's where a lot of the physical addictions come into it. But you staying off the alcohol, and you not actually drinking it anymore, alcohol's got nothing to do with that. Alcohol can't force you to take a drink. The only thing that can do that to you is yourself. So that's why I say that 98% of it is in your head. So yeah, that would be my advice anyway, is to try and minimize as much of the pain as possible, and to maximize your maximize the rewards that you're going to have, so that you're not looking down a big dark hole without any seeing any daylight. And if you can have some rewards there, I've spoke about this in this week's Stop Drinking Alcohol video. It's going to make things a hell of a lot easier. Realize that this doesn't last forever. You thinking about alcohol is not going to last forever. It takes a while to get it out of your system. It takes a while to build your life around not drinking anymore. But, it's just a natural progression. You will do it. Anyway, before I finish, I'm going to read this letter that I came across in the Guardian newspaper. It was actually Guardian.com, and I just thought it's about a woman who's sending a letter to her father who's deceased, and it's called A Letter to the Father I'll Never Mourn. So it starts out: it's almost 40 years since I was sent home from school in the middle of my exams to be told that you had died. I remember saying, "Is that all?" Then I turned on my heel and walked straight back in. My teachers were surprised, but they let me finish the exam. I thought in time I might feel something other than pure relief at your passing, but I never have. You were a life and soul of the party kind of guy. A wit and raconteur who could hold a room spellbound, 6'6", always dapper in your trilby and zoot suit. You were an amazing dancer and loved by many, but you were a violent, gambling, alcoholic adulterer. My mother left you many times, and some of my happiest memories were helping her pack, but it was hard to manage on her own with 5 young kids, and in the end, you would always sweet-talk her back. I was 5 or 6 when you came home, angry in the early hours. My mother locked herself in the bedroom. You broke down the door with a machete and said, "I'm going to kill you and that child of yours." I stood beside her as, trapped and in her nightgown, she knelt and began to recite Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. I could not blink and did not take my eyes off you, and after a long standoff, you walked out. To this day, she is convinced that had I not been there, you would have killed her. There were many times when I stared you down, and many times when I was beaten because I would not take that look off my face. I do remember one time that my mother ran. She made it as far as the corner shop, begging for help. They did nothing but stand aghast as you dragged her out. I picked up half a brick, held it high and told you, "Leave my mummy alone." You looked at me, laughed, dropped her in a puddle on the pavement and walked off. I will never forget the day you actually left, the rasp of your calloused fingers against my face as you lunged at me. One of your friends grabbed you before you could get a proper hold of me. You said then that if you ever saw me when you were in your car, you would run me down. A week later, I saw you behind the wheel. I froze, like a rabbit in the headlights. You saw me, but evidently decided not to make good your promise. I was 10. My siblings visited you, but I was careful to avoid the part of town where you lived. 4 years later, you died. Family and friends were scandalized that I showed no emotion at the funeral. I wondered if there was something wrong with me. I felt utterly betrayed by my mother's grief, as she had never had a good word to say about you when you were alive. I sat her down and asked her why she was so upset. She said for the first time that she had loved you. Widowed at 42, she never remarried. As an adult, I had some intense female friendships. Victims and rescuers are very good at finding each other. My brother, your beloved only son, is a life and soul of the party kind of guy, a wit and raconteur, a natty dresser and a great dancer, and a ladies' man. He
also became a violent, abusive womanizer and spent a long stretch of time in prison for assaulting one of his girlfriends. To his credit, he came out a better man and has learned to control his temper, and after many years of enmity, we get on well. I now know that I was made the family scapegoat. Victims of abuse learn to remove themselves from their bodies and watch from afar. It was this skill that enabled me to carry on with my exams on the day of your death. But it comes at a heavy price when unvented feelings resurface, often years later. I worked hard at school and was the first member of the family to go to university. I have a successful career and am in a relationship with a wonderful, nurturing man. To mark the 40th anniversary of your death, my siblings decided to buy you a proper headstone. My mum couldn't afford one when you died. They asked me if I wanted to contribute. I declined. I have never visited your grave. If I did, people might wonder why there was a middle-aged woman dancing on it. Anonymous. Just the reason why that struck me, this story, was it wasn't because of the husband. You know, a bastard is a bastard. But it was that the son had followed in his father's footsteps and probably thought it was a great thing. I'm not talking about the beating or the womanizing or any of that. I'm talking about the drinking. I think that we teach our children to drink without being fully aware of what we're doing. I don't think we teach our children to take any other drugs with quite so much freedom. So, that's your lot for this week. If you would like to leave a comment, just go over to the website and leave a comment underneath the post. It'll be alcoholmastery.com session 4. Also, if you're on iTunes, you can leave a rating there. So, until next time, I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. Onwards and upwards.